Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special episode of the Furry Valley Podcast. Before we start, I just wanted to remind everyone to turn off your mics before we start. Any questions you have for us can go in the podcast text channel right above this voice chat. Any discussion can go in speaking voice right below that. As always, I'm your host, Nova the Bass Skunk, and tonight I'll be hosting a one-on-one with a leader of Furry Valley and certifiably snuggly, Simba. Simba, how are you doing on the other side of the metaphorical table tonight?
I'm good. It's strange not being your co-host.
I know, it's really weird. And as co-host, you have gotten out of the whole introducing yourself thing for months now. So why don't you go ahead and do just that? Tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started.
Okay, my name's Simba. As Nova mentioned, I'm the leader of Furry Valley. Been the leader here for 7.5 years now. So before some of you were born, I'm sure. It's a pleasure to be here. Pleasure, as always, to be hosted by Nova. And yeah, a little bit about me. I'm a British furry. I'm a lion. I've always been a lion. Been a furry for many, many years now. Originally, as you may guess from a name, became a furry from Lion King back in the early 2000s, it would be. And yeah, I don't spend much time outside of Furry Valley nowadays, but in the past I've been on all sorts of furry platforms and forums and so forth. Yeah.
All right, wonderful. So let's go ahead and just jump right in. So Furry Valley has existed in some form for 15 years or so, much to the disbelief of our newcomers. And I know you've only been here for, or rather only leader for about 8, but do you think you could give us a brief history about the origins of Furry Valley and how you first got involved?
Yeah, I can try. So Furry Valley wasn't called Furry Valley until actually this January. So very recently, we changed our branding, we changed our name to that when we merged with a different community on Telegram. We were Furry Menagerie on Discord, and there was a Telegram community called Furworks, and together we rebranded to become Furry Valley. And we had a co-owner at the time, who I became co-leader with. He was the owner of the Telegram site. So prior to that, we were Furry Menagerie, and we were FM between about 2011 and 2019. Before that, we were the Furry Chat or the Fur Chat, and before that, I don't think we really had a name before that, the Furry Clan, that kind of thing. But we were a RuneScape group of furries back when RuneScape was a big game, RuneScape Classic. Well, right towards the end of Classic and start of RuneScape 2 as well. As for how we originally got together, I'm sure you're advertised in a few places, but I think one of the main places was a 18+ furry site called Furry to Furry, and there were people on there looking for RuneScape furs. And being the good 18+ furry I was when I was about 12, I was on that website and I came across it and I was like, I play RuneScape. So ended up banding together with these people, and that was 2004. So yeah, about 15 years of history there. And as you say, I jest about having led FV for longer than some of our members have been alive, but FV itself is actually older than some of our members for sure. It's crazy thinking back that far and how I've changed as a person since then. I don't know anyone from the start, unfortunately, anymore. But you never forget them. They've all had their place, all had their role to play.
So at what point did you first get involved? Were you there from the beginning, or?
Pretty near the start, yeah. I don't know exactly when it started, but I was there 2004. So I don't think it started much before then. When I became involved, there were probably about 10 or 15 people. Very few.
I myself remember easily, hell, nearly 10 years ago, I was part of almost every iteration of FV's RuneScape clans, and it really has grown significantly from where it started. But even as much as we've grown, I'm sure we haven't reached the end game anytime soon. So, since you've taken over Furry Valley, what's been your goal for it as its leader?
Well, let's say 7.5 years, so I became a leader at Easter 2012. And between then and the start of 2018, I wasn't particularly ambitious. I just wanted to be the de facto RuneScape clan and enable any RuneScape furries to have a cool place to hang out and to play together, come to events and have a good time. But towards the start of 2018, I started to become very concerned with Jackbox, the company that runs RuneScape. The decisions they were making were pretty much uniformly disastrous. They were refusing to engage the player base, and they were undoubtedly destroying their game. So obviously I've made friends as part of that RuneScape community for many years, and I didn't want to lose touch or lose contact with those people. As a result of that, I decided, much to the dismay of my other admins at the time, they thought it was a crazy idea, but I thought, okay, we can't stick with RuneScape forever because Jackbox are killing RuneScape. And so I branched out into 5 games at that point at the start of 2018, with the idea that when RuneScape did collapse and die, we would have an alternative. We would have somewhere we could go to and continue hanging out. These are my friends. I wanted to play a game with them, even if it wasn't RuneScape. So that's when we became a little bit more ambitious. Now, at that point, I just was looking quite insularly and thinking, okay, well, where are we going to end up? But it so happened that there were a lot of furries outside who were like, oh, we want a cool sort of gaming community like you've got for RuneScape. And from there, we just sort of kept getting more and more games and community events as well, such as movies and anime people wanted to watch, and we expanded onto social media, and suddenly it became very, very large. And I think probably maybe about July or August 2018, I thought to myself, well, this is becoming bigger than I thought it would be. So probably I should change the goal and say, okay, well, we'll become the center of the furry fandom. At the moment, the platforms that we have available are things like Fur Affinity, very deprecated old things from the mid-2000s. There's nothing modern, there's nothing integrated, there's nothing all under one umbrella, a platform that offers everything a furry can need in one place. And that's what, at that point, I decided, in essence, that FV would become.
Well, as a quick aside, I'm still kind of reeling from that first comment that you didn't lose faith in Jackbox until 2018, but moving on from that. So all that being said, when you look at Furry Valley 20 years from now, when it becomes the center of the furry fandom, as you put it, and I know the website has been a big task here, but outside of that website, what exactly do you see Furry Valley looking like?
I mean, 20 years is a lot longer than it's going to take. If it takes any longer than 3 years, I've done something seriously wrong. As for the more distant future, I would say in 10 years, what I'd want is a fully integrated VR system. So people would be able to put on a full VR suit and be able to immerse themselves in a real furry community, a real furry world, similar to sort of Ready Player One style, for those of you who've seen that movie. Kind of similar to VR chat, but on steroids, far more modern, far more flashed out. If we're looking about 2030, these technologies will all be available. So that's what I'd like FV to be down the line. And as part of that furry world, I'd like it to be the case that we'd have a full sort of economy and a social economy as well. I really, really, really am a fan of the idea that every good deed should be rewarded. And there are a lot of furries who do fantastic things for the community in ways that are quite often intangible. And the ability to be able to give some sort of social credit to them, to sort of be able to give someone a pat, as we've got currently in the XP system, so that they may then redeem that in the virtual world for something else, something tangible. Perhaps if you're a good person, you're eligible for certain discounts on art. Furry artists may offer this sort of thing. So that's what I'm looking for. A unified platform where it's not simply how much money you have, it's how good you are as a person, what you offer to the community, to have every furry supported by and integrated into that world. That's what I'd like 10 years from now.
All right. And I gave you 20 years. You immediately scaled it back, and you mentioned that if you couldn't accomplish becoming the center of the fandom in 3 years, that you had done something wrong. So what do you
Seriously
think?
wrong, yeah.
Then what do you think Furry Valley is going to look like 3 years from now?
I think 3 years from now, it'll be the case that there won't be a sensible competitor. So FV will offer everything a furry needs in one place. If you choose not to use FV, you must be using an inferior solution. That's sort of how I see it in 3 years. So we will have, for example, fully integrated furry art platform. Now that will enable artists to do things like auctions on their pictures. That will also include protection for artists, protection for commissioners, so that you cannot have an artist that scams you. We will have an escrow service to make sure that that is not possible. And similarly, you can't have a commissioner that screws you over. All the furry game plans will be the main game plans that are furry for each game will be centered on our platform, and you'll be able to freely move between them. You'll have one login system, which will give you access to all of this. You'll have a personal ads section, so if you're looking for a furry boyfriend, girlfriend, just friends, whatever it may be, it'll all be accessible. Classified section, so if you're wanting to sell a fursuit, other bits and pieces, pins, stickers, whatever it may be, you'll be able to do it there. The idea basically being that 3 years from now, I think it's perfectly feasible that everything a furry needs, I'm going to be able to offer in one place to a higher quality than they can individually find each piece of that elsewhere. Much more convenient.
And I think that's exactly the direction that Furry Valley needs to take. These are very big plans, and though we all know you as Furry Valley's leader, we also know that you are involved in quite a lot hands-on here. What kind of direct involvement do you have in the admin teams?
So currently I work on the Coder team and the RuneScape 3 team. I code our Discord bot, which most of you are pretty familiar with by now. Little bits and pieces here and there on our Telegram side as well. The RuneScape 3 side of things, obviously that's my history, those are my roots, and I think it's important that I keep in touch with that. So I'm still the leader of RuneScape 3. I'm not as well connected as I perhaps was once upon a time with it. I don't play as much as I used to, but it's still very meaningful to me, and to be able to go back and send to myself with that nostalgia is important. But I think most of my time on the admin side is spent managing other admins at this point, particularly managing team leads. So we have a lot of team leaders, about 25 to 30 in total, and managing those people and training those people so that they may do a better job to help their team out, their own admins, and then their admins can help the members out. That is where I'm most effective. That's where I can add the most value to Furry Valley at this point. Though I wouldn't ever want to be completely hands off sort of what the members do with the coding and the RS3 side, because I feel that keeps me in touch. And I like it. Much as I'm perhaps not spending my time most efficiently, I like being involved. I like being a member as much as I like being the leader.
So could you imagine a world where you're part of FV, but you're not leading it or part of a staff team?
No. I think I'd be too much of a pest. I think if I wasn't leader, then I'd be constantly badgering whoever was leader, and I'd be saying, no, don't do it like that, do it like this. And I think if I ever were to step down as leader, I would probably leave FA. The only reason I'd ever leave is for real life purposes. If I had to do something in real life, maybe I had a business thing or something really, really, really quite significant, then that's perhaps the time. But no, I wouldn't. I see myself as a member still, absolutely, but I wouldn't want to be like a mid-tier admin. That'd irritate me.
Well, speaking of your relationship as both a member of the community and a leader, considering the number of people you've gotten to meet over the last several years, the teams you've worked with, and the amount that FV has grown, you've been exposed to a number of unique opportunities, both as a leader and as a member of the community. What are some of the experience or lessons that you've gathered in your time here?
I think as a member and as a person, I've learned. It might sound silly, but I've learned social skills. I have Asperger's syndrome, and growing up with that, it very much was unnatural to me to socialize. I couldn't talk to people. It didn't really work when I tried. It's all quite a conscious process, and so that is something which, as a member, I've certainly learned how to do. I think I had really poor self-esteem when I was younger, and through leadership that's developed quite a lot. I think one of the most important things I've learned in terms of leadership is that I absolutely must not sacrifice my own happiness to try to make everyone else happy. And this is a lesson everyone should learn. There, in early 2018, about February, March time, we had an admin, Red Panda guy from Australia, and he was an absolute nightmare. The senior admins, we did absolutely everything. We moved the heavens and earth for that guy to try to make him happy and satisfied, and to give him what he needed. Spent countless hours on this guy, and it turned out he was a piece of crap in the end. He was a vile person. And because I'd spent, the senior admins, including me, had spent so much time helping that guy, we'd missed a lot of opportunities to spend time on and help other people who genuinely were far more deserving. So I think perhaps the most important leadership thing I've learned is don't spend 90% of your time on the 10% of people who are least deserving of it. Most people, you'll never make everyone happy. Focus on the ones you can make happy, and don't worry about the ones you can't.
And those are all fantastic lessons to learn, and ones I can definitely relate to here at Furry Valley. And I'm sure a lot of our members who have been here for a while can speak to their own greater confidence or social skills just by the means of the way that we communicate here. Our buddy system is fantastic for integrating people into the community or into the fandom. It's an open environment, and I think it's something that everyone can benefit from and relate to here. But on the opposite side of that coin, all of those experiences also mean that you face a lot of obstacles, negativity and backlash both within and outside the community. What are some of the problems you've had to take on as the leader of Furry Valley, and how have you faced them?
I think the style of problems has changed over the years. So back when we were a RuneScape clan and nothing really more, the sort of problems were that you might get a rogue furry on RuneScape decide he wants to create some other RuneScape furry clan and then tries to take on members, and it's sort of small scale, petty, in-game clan politics and stuff, and that's sort of a problem in itself. But as we've grown, it's sort of morphed into a really far more sinister and a far more detached kind of negativity, where it's mostly, I mean, the people in FV at this point are absolutely lovely. I love you guys to death. That wasn't the case back in RuneScape. There were some people in the RS clan back then who I was not fond of at all. Now the negativity really is outside, and I think it simply is jealousy. There are some people who have, through really quite awful things they've done in some cases, have lost privilege, lost access to FV, and as a result of that, they are very bitterly negative towards FV as a whole, towards the members, towards the admins, towards me, towards everyone. And as for how you deal with it, I mean, you, as sad as it sounds, you become a bit conditioned to it. So when you first see people behaving like this, it's disgusting and it's appalling, and you can't believe that people would really do that. But the more you see it, the more you sadly become accustomed to it, and the more you sort of become stoic, and you realize, well, okay, sort of going back to what I was saying before, you can't make everyone happy. And that is even more true when you have 30,000 people. You can't make everyone happy, and you must focus on those who you can. And it definitely is difficult at times. There are times where, I mean, I'm conditioned to it, but there are times where the anti-FV people will attack those who are not conditioned to it, and that bothers me much more so, because those people, we've had people who, they get depressed and then they don't eat because they've been harassed by these people, and that's ever so sad, simply for working to create something great for what really is a hobby. Furry is a hobby to these people. So supporting those people, doing my best for them, is I guess a lot of what I do to help with this sort of thing. It really is quite sad, though, to say I'm conditioned to it. But I don't think it's any more of a conditioning to how we see a shooting in the US, and we think, oh, they shot up a mall again. They shut up a school again. It shouldn't be like that. It should be outrage. It should be absolute outrage. But because these sorts of things happen so often, people lose sight of quite how awful it is. And from a psychological perspective, it's comforting that this happens, but you really have to step back now and then and think it is absolutely unacceptable that these things happen. It is what it is, and I feel external regulation is the only thing that's really going to change this sort of thing, can change things like online trolling. Until that happens, we just do what we can to get by, and we will continue to do so. There is nothing these people can do that will stop us. Fundamentally, that's always important to remember, especially when times aren't so great. And I think it's also very important to remember that 99.5% of people are fantastic. They're awesome. You guys are all awesome. Furries generally are very friendly, accepting, loving people who wouldn't do anything against the person, and not allowing the 0.5% who would to ruin it and to make you become cynical and paranoid and distressed is important for your mental health. It shouldn't be the case that that happens. Very sad.
And as I've said before, this is definitely something we need to explore at length in the future. But for the time being, let's bring this back to Furry Valley. So with Furry Valley facing a number of obstacles, as well as seeing some of its largest growth in the last several months, and a number of super exciting projects in the works, Furry Valley feels like it's reached what I call almost an adolescent stage, rapidly transitioning as we try to take a clear direction. Simba, how would you describe the state of Furry Valley as it stands now?
Exciting. I think no week is the same as the week before it. As you mentioned, it's sort of an adolescent stage. A lot is changing, a lot is transforming, a lot of growth is happening. And I find that really energizing. I think it's nice to have new projects to work on all the time. It's nice to work with new staff. We're on a 6-week trial admin cycle at the moment, so we get new staff in every 6 weeks. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to what happens in the coming few months. We've got our first 2 furry conventions planned for next year. That'll be really good. Super looking forward to that. Not 100% confirmed, but our first one is likely to be in Ohio. So if you're in the New England area in the US, there you go.
You'll get to see your boy Nova there.
Cool. You owe me Snuggles.
Absolutely. You'll have to come over here for that, though.
Alright, since you asked nicely.
So, with over a decade of history behind Furry Valley and nearly just as much as your work behind it, I'm sure you've had moments where you wish you could change or opportunities you wish you could have taken. So if you could change anything about your tenure as Furry Valley's leader, what would it be?
I wish I had known sooner not to focus on the people who weren't worth focusing on. I've wasted literally years of time on these people. And had I used those years more productively on people and things that would have been more productive, that would have enabled a quicker overall success. So I think that's the thing I regret most. I think also it comes down to the time period, but I regret not being able to keep in touch with some of the people I knew many years ago. Now, the reason I reference the time period is it used to be difficult in the mid-2000s to keep in touch with people. Not everyone had an email address. Certainly not everyone had things like MSN Messenger we had at the time, what became Windows Live Messenger and then Skype and so forth. So there genuinely are people that I knew 15 to 20 years ago, and I don't even know if they're still alive. I don't have any contact with them, and I know their names, and I miss them. I miss them terribly. So I think I miss that I'm unable to check up on them. I'd love to. And maybe I still use the same name as I did back then. Occasionally, very occasionally, we get someone who does find their way back. Dreamer is a good example. He was around in about 2006, maybe. He came to Furry Valley a few months ago. We had the leader before me, came to Furry Valley early this year, had a chat with me, which was really quite something. But yeah, not many others. I do miss them.
And for y'all younger folk listening tonight, that's something that you just cannot appreciate.
Please don't take that for granted.
I mean, today someone might quit a game that you play, but they're most likely on social media, have a fur affinity, a furry Facebook, something like that. You just Google their name, you find them. But
yeah,
that really just was not available back in the mid-2000s.
No, we didn't even really use Google search. You had like Ask Jeeves, you had Alta Vista, so it wasn't. Yeah, the internet wasn't the same back then. Yeah. One day, who knows if I can make a time machine.
That'll be another level 5 task for Furry Valley, I'm sure.
Yeah, one of you guys is going to get assigned that.
Alrighty, so it's just about time to move to audience questions. Quick reminder that anyone with questions can leave them in the podcast text channel right above this voice chat, and you can do so at any point before we end our show tonight. But before we move on, I do have one final question for you, Simba. So Furry Valley is something to offer everyone, and everyone has something different to gain from it. What would you say is your absolute favorite thing about FV?
The people, the community. Even if I didn't have any goals and aspirations to make FV be more than it is at the moment, even if there weren't really events and such, who would I hang out with? I'd hang out with you guys. Everyone here is my family. And without doubt, that is the best thing about this place to me. It wouldn't matter if everything else disappeared. I'd still have you guys. That's what counts.
And I'm sure we're all collectively awing into our muted microphones right now.
I've got a reputation to uphold. I can't be too cute. Come on.
You're allotted about 15 cuteness units a show.
Per year. Let's not be silly.
Alrighty, so thank you for your time, Simba. It was awesome getting to spend some one-on-one time with you tonight, and that was everything I had for you, but I'm sure we have plenty of audience questions here to answer, so let's go ahead and get started. Once again, anyone interested can go ahead and put their questions in the podcast text chat right above this voice chat. So the first question, I'm going to split that into two different ones. First off, how would you say that Furry Valley as a whole has influenced your life?
I think it certainly made me a lot more extroverted. As I mentioned, I have Asperger's syndrome, and I used to be a very introverted, quiet, weird, geeky sort of mathematician cubster, and now I'm quite extroverted. I've got no problems at all presenting to hundreds of people. It's also turned me into a leader rather than a follower. As I mentioned, I had really bad self-esteem issues, self-confidence issues. You'd never find me telling other people what to do. And now I couldn't imagine myself not telling people what to do. I don't like following direction anymore. So I think it's turned me into it's made me a lot more rounded in the sense that I was already quite good at this sort of quietly just getting on with my work and stuff, but now I'm also good with okay, let's come up with a sense of direction, let's lead people there. I think that's how it's changed me, and in my real life family, I'm unrecognizable. They the child that left home 10 years ago to go to university is nothing like the person I am today, and I think that's a bit weird, but not in a bad way. They are very proud of me.
And that's an absolutely wonderful progression. I definitely relate to. It's so much easier and more comforting to be a follower, but it's definitely more rewarding to be a leader. And you don't really get to be a leader in that situation unless you're forced to rise to the occasion.
Yeah, I mean, I was co-leader for about 9 months before I became leader, and I was good at what I did, but I was always quite comfortable because if everything went shit, I could just say, "Well, look, what do we do, Mr. Leader? What do we do, White Wolf?" And I knew I had someone to look up to, and it wasn't all me on my own. But then I became leader, and I was shit in it. I was absolutely terrified because I thought to myself, "Crap, what do I do now if something goes wrong?" I think the first 2 years I was leader, I was extremely soft on people, and I was so nice because I was terrified of things going wrong, and so I just figured just be really, 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 really nice to everyone, and hope everything goes okay. And it was really bad leadership because people would just take advantage, and I'd give people like 6 final warnings and all this kind of crap. So yeah, not having any fallback as the leader is a really big psychological shift. Absolutely.
So looking back at that line that was co-leader for 9 months,
Yeah.
if you could give that past Simba any advice as far as actually leading a community like this, what would you say?
I think I'd say it's going to be okay, even when it looks crap and things seem to be going wrong and there are problems. It always turns out okay, as long as you're resilient and you keep focused and you don't give up, stay motivated. Then you can't actually really lose. It's you only lose when you give up, and I never gave up even when it got hard, and I definitely wanted to at some point. Not so much anymore, but years ago.
And that's that's great advice for anyone. Just don't give up regardless of the hardship. Moving on, we have one from Ryoko who wants to know what do we feel about one and done models of punishment, and what do we think about reciprocal justice, like having the bully and victim speak with each other? So I guess the greater question is, how do you view Furry Valley and our ban system?
Okay, so generally there are 2 kinds of people who cause problems. There are the people who are just a bit silly and stupid and don't think about what they're doing until it's too late. And there are the people who deliberately and maliciously do bad things. The first kind, I'm very, 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 very soft on. So when we have our new trialist training sessions, I explicitly say to them, one of the things that matters most is openness. Tell me if you fuck up. Tell me as soon as you've done it, and it's totally okay. Everyone makes mistakes, that's fine. I screw things up all the bloody time. You just don't see it a lot of the time. But the people who genuinely make an honest mistake, totally cool, no problem. I won't ban those people as long as they learn from what they do, obviously. The people who are malicious and deliberately do things they know are not good, I have no sympathy for. Ban, 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 ban. So it's quite it's a black and white thing. If you don't mean any harm and you've just screwed up by accident, yeah, cool, whatever. Go away, learn from it. If you're anti-FV, no, you ain't. You're dead. Simple as that. But I do have a strong sense of reform as well. We have had people who have gone from being anti-FV to being admins, and it's happened quite quickly. In the past, I can think of at least 3 or 4 cases at the top of my head of people who've been banned and now are admins, reliable admins in FV. People make mistakes. If you are malicious, absolutely I will punish you for it. You won't be here still. But in 3 months or whatever, if you've decided you're going to behave more civilly, yeah, okay, well, we'll see about giving you another chance. There are not many people, some but not many, who I would say are perma banned. I would never give another chance to. As for just briefly on reciprocal justice, so bully and victim, this doesn't work online. Face to face, I really like it. I think it's really effective in terms of developing empathy for a person and understanding your actions, but you can't develop that online, and so I don't feel it's appropriate.
So the name of the game here is intentionality.
Absolutely. Context is everything. And I'm pretty damn good at telling whether you meant it or not. I've been doing this too long. You can't fool me.
Alrighty. Reminder that we have plenty of time to continue to ask questions in the podcast text channel. I'm trying to do some of these businessy ones first before we move on to some of these more personal questions. Rayleigh wants to know if the FV Guardian membership system has worked as well as you expected, and how does that feed back into Furry Valley?
I don't think it has. Don't get me wrong. It's not that I don't appreciate the support we get from the FVGs. I love you guys to bits, and it means a lot that not only are you willing to say nice things, but you're willing to actually pay and say, "Look, I really support what you're doing. I love it." And that means a lot to me. But I've always felt that the FVG system is not quite what I want it to be. I've spoken with this at length with the senior admins, and coming up with the right system is actually quite difficult. I feel that the benefits I want to offer flexibility, but it's practically difficult to do this on Patreon because it's a tiered thing. I want to be able to offer more kinds of perks. So I don't like the current system, but I am not quite sure how to fix it. And it's been like this for months, and I'm conscious of it. I promise you, this pains me as much as it pains any of you, I'm sure. So yeah, in short, I don't like it. I don't quite know how to fix it, but I really do want to fix it. If you have any ideas, and especially if you're an FEG, let me know. Give us all the help you can, tell us what you want, and we'll do our best to work towards it for you.
Now, Arufa is a section of a different convention, essentially, hosting a panel at a con or something like
that. So I've said to people who host conventions before, you can invite me as a guest of honor, or when I have my own conventions, I won't associate with you, because at the end of the day, they would then be our competitors. I would not at all want to positively influence a competitor. So I would say no. In much the same way that we don't accept any partnerships, I'm not in the business of boosting our competitors, and I would outright refuse. You'd have to give me a lot in exchange if you wanted me to. If any con organizers are listening, you've got about 9 months in which to get me as GOH. And that's been, I've been pretty clear about that for the past year and a half. So, yeah.
Alrighty, we just got a question from the Twitch stream.
Oh.
Soundbite72 asks if we're ever going to have merch.
Yes. In fact, I don't know if you're part of our Discord, but we have 6 admin levels. And once an admin gets to level 3, they have the opportunity to take on a senior admin task. One of those tasks that we currently have available is for a merchandise store. It's the sort of thing that Nova and I could pick up and do ourselves, but we want to give these opportunities for the mid-tier admins to step up. What we'd likely offer at first is things like t-shirts, maybe pins, stickers, that sort of thing. And in the future, we'd like to move towards offering things like a custom Kiros plushie. Kiros is our mascot, the liger you'll see in all of our branding materials. So a custom plushie of him, other materials like that. If you have any ideas for types of merchandise you'd like, especially if you would buy that type of merchandise, let us know, and we'll see what we can do. But yeah, this definitely is definitely something we'd like to move towards. It's just finding someone to actually do the thing. Nova and I already do a lot.
So in answer to your question, it's soon TM.
Soon TM. It's been soon TM for about 9 months now, so hopefully it's soon. But
about to start bapping some level 4s.
And level 3s, yeah.
Alrighty, so that looks like all of our questions on the business side. Now let's let people learn a little more about you.
Oh boy.
So, unfortunately, I feel like I grossly mischaracterized your taste in music before we began. So in your own words, what kind of music do you like?
I think I like pretty much... What did you say before we began? You like the really gay Simba. Yeah, that's pretty much what I like. I like Miley Cyrus. I like Taylor Swift. I like all of the, as Nova put it, really gay. I like, to be honest, I like anything with a good tune. I like symphonic metal, believe it or not. I like a bit of Eminem. He's cool. Anything I can sing along to. We have a Cards Against Humanity card, which is something like you wouldn't believe something is as high as Simba's singing voice. Now, I like Taylor Swift. I sing along to that stuff. You know, Jessie J. Jessie J. Oh, I love her. Yeah. I like all this sort of teen girl music. Yeah. Shameful.
Simba, the gay idol in the making.
Absolutely. Making?
So that question came from Mr. K. He also wants to know what hobbies you have outside the fandom.
Well, I play RuneScape 3. As mentioned, I'm section lead for that. I also play League of Legends. Not as much as I used to now that FV is full-time. I don't have as much time, but I was Diamond 2 in League of Legends back in... What season are we on now? 9? Back in about 2015, that would be. I was pretty damn good at that game. Don't have as much time now, but I still I was going to say I still like playing the game, but no one likes playing League of Legends. I still like getting pissed off at my team on League of Legends. I think that's the better way of putting it. Outside of that stuff, I'm a professor, so I love to research. I'm an academic. You might laugh, but I casually just read research papers. I read research journals. I'm very, very, very into... I don't lecture it, but I'm very into psychology and sociology, learning about that side of things, and especially coming from the perspective of someone with autism with Asperger's syndrome, approaching sociology from a logical perspective rather than an intuitive perspective is really interesting to me. So I spend an unhealthy amount of time reading research papers. You know, when my students complain and say, oh, it's too much work, you've given me too many papers to write and read, and I think to myself, I work far harder than any of you do, just go away and do your work.
For most of that, though, it's hard to say that any of those hobbies are outside the fandom when most of what you're doing with folk from FE.
Oh, I don't know that so much. I mean, those are things that aren't really furry related, so I wouldn't say they're related to the fandom, and certainly my research isn't. I mean, the people in real life don't know I'm a furry. The people who I'm a furry don't know who I am, so I think that's probably for the best. I don't put it... Well, I say that. I suspect there are some of my students that suspect I might be a furry. I don't think they know. They've never said anything, but maybe. Because I wear animal stuff sometimes, so yeah.
I mean, at this point, you're teaching millennials, and it's not like millennials aren't already furry by default now.
They know what furries are, yeah. Yeah.
So this question came from a couple people. Uh, you said you spend an unhealthy amount of time on those research papers. You have a lot of different hobbies. You spend, I think you said 16 to 18 hours a day working on FV related stuff. How do you find time to balance all that?
I think the easier answer is I don't. It wasn't all, as I mentioned back in 2015. I was spending more time on things outside of FV, but really now I don't have time for everything I want to do, and it's yeah, it's a shame, but I have to prioritize, and so sometimes, some days I definitely work 16 to 18 hours, not every day. Some it can be as little as 10 or 12 hours. But I think I don't do too much that isn't available to me online. So obviously my journals, I've got there's like a portal you can log into which has access to all these papers and such. So I go on that. Obviously, the institutions I work with have libraries, so I can go in person if I want to. I rarely do. I think, though, perhaps the thing I miss out most is I don't see my family, my real life family, very often. It's been over a year since I've seen my family now. I keep saying to them, I'm going to see you for Christmas, and I mean Christmas 9 months ago, but I've never managed to get over there. I miss them. I miss some of them. I get on quite well with half of my family, and the other half of my family I wish never existed. But I miss the good half, and they miss me. My mum listens to our podcast. Bless her heart. I love you to bits, Mum, and I'm not ashamed to say that in front of everyone. And I hope to see you again soon. I miss you.
Gotta suck up to the boss's mom.
She likes you. She said to me, she said, "Oh, he's a nice boy, that one is."
I want that on my tombstone.
Oh.
Alrighty. We're just about out of questions and out of time, and I think this is a great question to end on. Do you think that in the long term, FV could in fact be the future of the fandom? And what sparks the confidence that you have in it becoming so?
Of course, I have no doubt. As I said, if it's not there in 3 years, it means I've really screwed something up. I think the reason why I'm so confident about it is we've got so much motivation. We have so many really, really, really talented, skilled, dedicated people that work really hard on FV, and we want it to happen. Generally in life, if you're motivated and driven and hardworking and capable, you'll get what you're going for. And also resilience is a big thing. I've had too many setbacks to not get back up anymore. I know how to deal with that kind of thing, and how to not only deal with it myself, but how to teach others how to, and how to carry them through the difficult times as well as make the most of the good times. And so now I absolutely am confident, and nice to see that others reflect in that and they carry the same vision I do, and we work together to make it happen. I'm not in any doubt that it will. Very confident and excited, very excited, because as much as anything, this is obviously something I put an inordinate amount of time into and work into, because it means so much to me. When I was younger, the furry fandom saved me, as I've gone into before. I never had a very nice real life. People didn't take care of me, and so the furry fandom was the place where I first found acceptance and people who would treat me well. So to be able to give back to that and to use the skills I have and the dedication and talent I have to pay it forward and provide something that the furries of today deserve. Because you look at what's around currently, you think, oh, for goodness sake, why are we having to use these websites that look like they're 20 years old? why are we having to make do with subpar services run by subpar people in subpar ways? It's not acceptable. I feel really strongly about this, and although it's a lot of time and energy and money that it takes, I've not spoken publicly about this before, but I got an offer earlier this year from a business investor, and he wanted to pay me $110,000 to buy all of FV. So that would be all the branding, all the assets, everything. And there's a tip to leave on. That's a really useful skill in life. To find out what you really want, imagine you've got infinitely much money. So money isn't a problem. And then think, well, what would I do if I had infinitely much money? And I thought to myself before I replied to this guy, what would I do if I had as much as I ever needed? And I decided, well, I'd probably go and make another furry community. So I declined. It was a pretty easy decline in the end. And I think that sort of sums it up. I want to give back, and you can give me 6 figures, and I'll still want to give back. It's the personal satisfaction and the happiness and the fulfillment I feel from enabling so many people in so many ways, and the community that saved me to provide something that they deserve. That's what drives me, and I won't stop until it happens. So of course it's going to happen. I'm really determined.
No, thank you for your time, Simba. It was awesome getting to spend some one-on-one time with you. Our next podcast is going to be in the same time, same place, Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Next week's topic is going to be the animal within, finding your fursona. If you're interested in speaking on this subject, be sure to leave me, Nova, a DM. We just put out our podcast poll in the announcements channel. Go ahead and take a look at that and vote for as many topics as you'd like to hear, as well as those that you'd like to speak on in the upcoming weeks. Alrighty, folks, that's everything. Thank you so much for joining us. We would not be a community without y'all participating, and we definitely wouldn't be Furry Valley if it wasn't you incredible people doing it. Be sure to stay tuned for coming events, and in the meantime, y'all have a fabulous night.